Frederick Taylor, who started his career as an engineer in the steel industry, developed the perspective of management called scientific management, and it was based on uh, really science in terms of observing behavior in organizations, in workplaces, and trying to come up with better work methods, more systematic ways of running organizations, and with a very strong emphasis on production efficiencies. Scientific management is the foundation for all of the management disciplines. Scientific management was the root discipline for management accounting, for production management, quality management, industrial engineer, personnel management, planning and budgeting, and through the personnel human resources connection, the field of organizational behavior, which is the foundation for this course. Um, it's really useful, I think, to take a little bit of time and read some of Taylor's own writings. First, because I think he has been misrepresented by a lot of modern management writers who want to use scientific management as kind of the bad guy, and and it was naive. I think you'll find it's not at all naive. And that understanding the premises of scientific management helps us understand the various fields that are part of the MBA, the role of leadership in the firm for those different fields. And I think what you'll see is for many of the fields of study, because leadership is not that important, their contributions are through tools that enhance productivity, that workflow processes, that they're still very much in the kind of same vein of scientific management and how they see the role of employees. And it's not a bad thing. They just have never really been interested in the leadership contributions. And scientific management was foundational for the development of the field of leadership, but it's kind of a field that in which there are these experts who share their expertise, who design the organization, and all of the productivity is very much related to very much an engineering approach to management. It's very useful for us to understand that. It's an important point of departure for us. And reading Taylor's work, and it's got a kind of old style about it. It's written in, I believe, 1919. Um, you know, look for how are workers depicted in Taylor's organizations? And how is productivity generated? So are workers highly motivated individuals? Are they intelligent choice makers? I think you'll see a very stark contrast with what you've already read in the Kuznets and Posner book. And they're pretty much not. They're cogs in a machine, but it's very useful to understand how that machine works. I think it's useful to look at Taylor's assumptions about skills and how he approaches skill development. He very much was in the forefront of the firm needs to train people. It needs to offer training, and in order to train people, the firm has to do research on work methods. And very core to the method, scientific management method, is studying work methods, perfecting them, balancing work lines, a lot of things that we currently focus on in production management, and then also quality control is a big part of the scientific management discipline. I want you to think about the characterization of how productivity is achieved with labor. Uh, Again, is there a leadership contribution to be made here? And I think probably as you read through this, you'll say, well, there's not much leadership here. There's a lot of engineering, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of management, but leadership is less evident. And then also consider the relationship between labor and capital in Taylor's work. And one of the big issues with scientific management, and where it really developed a real rub, was how do we allocate the productivity gains from capital investments? Do those go to labor? Do they go to capital? They typically go to capital, but labor may be stressed by it. And so I think it's also interesting to kind of keep in mind this tension that's developing in this period of time, especially against organized labor movement and the capital interests that Taylor is serving is just an interesting point in history and the history of work, and something that I think greatly informs what modern perspectives are, how we've come to think about the workforce differently, and in particular what we've come to think about very differently. We have a radically different conception, is the capacity of labor to contribute both mind through thinking, through innovation, and their capacity to make a contribution through their commitment to the firm. It's all missing here. But again, these are very smart people. They're building great enterprises, and this is how they're thinking about the challenge of managing the workforce.